word. And you can figure out what you do is here, and we can decide. But at the end of the day, we need to enforce. You can't have non-enforcement. So the first thing we need to seriously explore is the enforcement. And we need to make certain we enforce, and we got to figure out how we do that. Now, I always said I'm open to a proposal from the dog owners that attempts to reconcile the interests. The only way I can see that is if you have some sort of delineated area, as you suggested, that's rational, that addresses the concerns. I always thought Rice City, in my view, has one of the best human resource in all of New York State. And so when people in Rye organize, like they did with the parking, the government benefits and our communities benefit. So I quite frankly been expecting the dog owners to come back with a coherent proposal. We'll pay. You'll pay. I would have thought you designate this area. These are the rules, and and then who's going to enforce the most is the dog owners, because somebody comes out of town, and you're going to need a license to have your dog in the run. Right? If you want to run, you're going to have to have a license. It'll be self-financing. It's not a difficult concept to put together. So I've been waiting for that, because I think we do want to try and reconcile as much as possible the interests. So, in fact, I think, even some of the staff was suggesting that might be a good solution. So I think there's two things that I come to the conclusion. One is we need to enforce, and then we need to enforce. And then the second thing is, I would fully expect, Commissioner Sachs has been very vocal in trying to I expected him to come up with a proposal that the commission would consider, working with the dog people and so forth. So my question then to the board is, we need to enforce, and I want to make it clear to the community that at least Joe Carvin, is open to suggestions. How do we reconcile the divergent interests, provide for security? My number one goal is security. I'm not going to jeopardize safety. I will not, as long as I'm here, jeopardize safety. That was one of the reasons we took the number of cars in the park down. So one of the reasons we have all these silly signs. I'm not going to jeopardize safety and security. And when I hear about this woman having her kid, it just kills me. And I can do everything. So number one is security. It always has been, always will be. Then if we can ensure that safety and security and reconcile the interests, let's try and do that. Now, I see that as an initiative coming from the dog owners, presumably, maybe the commissioners that are supportive of that. I think the two Rice City officials did that. But first and foremost, we need to get enforcement. We need to get back an environment of respect, and we need to get an environment of enforcement. Now, I guess the question is, we really need to work with Rice City to achieve that enforcement, it seems to me. I don't know how we achieve enforcement in the short term. Is there any suggestions from the commission members? I mean, I'm prepared to go to the expense in the short term to do it. I think we need to get it. And maybe a message, maybe we should do is meet with the dog owners as soon as possible and let them know we're going to enforce one, and two, consider any proposal they come up with. But we need to enforce. There's not, because I think there's a risk, and you're hearing it very clearly here today, no dogs. I don't think that moves anybody. And quite frankly, if this situation persists, I will side with no dogs. I'm pretty confident we'll have the votes for no dogs, which is a situation nobody wants. But, we can't have a situation where people are abusive across the board to staff. So ultimately, that's not where anybody wants to go. But if we continue to be, abused and disrespected, I don't see us as having any choice. So what I'd like to suggest is, one, let's get a commission from the board here to meet with the dog people. Does anybody want to be on this in particular? I'm happy to be involved to meet with. I'm happy to.
Mayor French would like me to sit on this.
Good.
I would
be
happy to participate.
So you and I, and we also, I also remember your comment, and I have it ringing in my ears when we went in front of the Rye City Council and said we're fast becoming the least fun park. And I also remember your nice words at our meeting. But we don't want it to be the least fun park. So it's we all have stakeholders in the park. We're all stakeholders. So you and I will meet with the dog owners and encourage them to one, follow the laws such as they are, and two, come up with a proposal that reconciles the interest.
I think what you've said. I've taken some notes. I think, first of all, you're identifying the need for reasonableness. I have to say is absolutely 100%. And I think when you said we need to meet immediately, I
Yep.
see it as an immediate
Yeah.
situation, because if I feel like I walked into a war room situation where we're about to go to war.
Yeah.
I'm getting the feeling that,
Right.
what I've walked into is, all right, we're telling you, we're going to enforce. I see all hell
Right.
breaking loose
Sure,
over
of
at
course.
Ride Town Park
Right,
from
right,
what
right,
I'm hearing.
right,
This
right.
concerns me.
Yeah.
But I think if we could have a meeting first to, lay out the facts. And I'm glad you identified Christina Beecher as somebody who has succeeded so well with something like the commission, the parking group. And I would ask you if you would please step up and if there's going to be maybe a dog commission from a community group here, that maybe again you would serve, because I think if you've demonstrated the reasonableness, we could use some representing the user group of the dog walk.
Well, there's a dog group, right?
There is a dog group,
Right.
I'm sure there'll be
And
people
sure, I'd love
as
to have,
part of the
uh,
dog group, but
yeah.
I'm saying you've succeeded so far on one project. This seems like a task that needs another level ahead, so I'm asking.
Did you say you have a dog?
And then-
Just careful.
That's a compliment, Christina. You're wonderful at
But my other thought too is going to be for Linda Wells, because here we're talking about a delineated area for dogs, and I would like to hear your point of view.
Well, I'm not
on
going to have a
this.
discussion on it tonight. What has
This is definitely something that will
I
be,
think what I'm saying is, I'm fully prepared to consider any proposal that comes that aims to reconcile and reduce the tensions. And what we have to do is, as I said, with the parking situation, we're able to bring everybody around the table and agree. I'm sure Christine and Caroline would have preferred 500 or no cars. There were some people, and some of us wanted more cars. So not some of us, some of the other people wanted more cars. So, but at the end of the day, we reconciled the interests and we moved on. And then similarly, I'm very hopeful we could do the same. So you and I will go to
Absolutely.
meet with the Dog Owner Association. Hopefully, Christine and Linda might join us. And then I think what we need to do is also, if we authorized by the board, I want to make it clear to them that we're going to enforce. And I think as part of our mandate, then what I'd like to suggest is we sit down with Rice City and see how we can ensure this prompt response and enforcement. So I'm happy to go sit down with the dog owners, happy to sit down and explain this is coming, happy to give them some suggestions, a way forward. But what we can't have as we enter into the summer season, unbridled unenforcement.
Okay, may I just say one last thing, though?
Please.
I think all that's wonderful and great, and it really is. A little frustrating to me since we've had these meetings 2 years ago.
right.
And it is frustrating, that the heat is there, but I get it. Just since I'm the mayor of a municipality, it just concerns me to think that the end-all and the be-all is going to be the enforcement by the police, when in fact their goal, I would hate to see the resources spent all the time to go to a park because of dogs when there are emergencies. And that's my concern a little bit. I understand the enforcement and maybe have to give some tickets, but I'm certainly sensitive to the fact that your police, this is not, it's a quality of life issue, but that's really not fair also to the police of the city of Rye. So maybe a couple
Well, maybe-
to set the tone.
That's a good.
But
That's maybe what I'd like to maybe suggest that you and I explore. Obviously, meet with the dog owners, encourage better self-policing, etc. But also explore enforcement options then as well.
Yeah,
Come back
exactly.
to the commission with
That's what I'm
enforcement
thinking.
options. Yeah,
So
good.
we'll set up 2 meetings, and the other will be with the police
Rice
commissioner.
City, yeah, please.
yeah,
Yep,
let's
sorry,
do that.
Nicola.
Real quick, does the Rice City Police have a particular policy towards or against enforcing the state dog leash law?
They come when they're called.
But it sounds that they don't always write tickets. I'm not there, and it's anecdotal,
No,
and there's two sides to the stories ever.
I'll never write tickets.
That's
Well,
pretty
there
absurd.
were,
2 last year.
and I thought there were more than 2, but I'll just,
Well,
If
I
there
think
were
we're sorry. Last comment. Okay, we're clear. Fred, I think what the message is clear, we need to enforce, and we need to find
I was just going to recommend that perhaps we also reach out to the Westchester Park Commission, a la Playland, if we're going to have a dog discussion, because that has always been in tandem with Rytown Park in terms of dogs on the beach and dogs off leash and dogs,
Right.
in the facility.
Good.
So they may also be a welcome resource in kind of coming to a decision.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, great. So I'll bring that conversation to a close. Thanks, everybody, for their participation. Hopefully we can find a solution. Now, we're way over time here. Let me just see what we've got in terms of decisions we need to make. The pond report, we have a comprehensive analysis in our packets. So unless the commission members need to hear, I think we can move, because there's no decision being made on the pond, as I understand it. Okay. The Rytown Sign Committee, I do think we should take 2 minutes to vote on that. My understanding, but I'm going to go very quick. This is going to be...
Right, this is what we might
All right.
decide on. So
I understand. But I want the quick version.
This is only 4 slides.
4
right?
slides, okay.
And these are the 4
30
options.
seconds per slide.
These are the 4 options that were discussed.
Oh, no, yeah, Murphy's. Is this Murphy's or Nowotnik's law?
No, we're good. It's there.
Okay.
Okay, these are the 4 options that have been put on
Fred,
the
just grab
table.
those lights there, please.
Yeah. In fact, Catherine would have a better shot at this. All right, the first 2 are basically white signs with, the...
So I just to set this up, we're talking about putting 4 new welcoming signs into Rytown Park at a cost of $1,600?
Approximately $400 a piece, $1,600.
So 4 new versus, this is what you can't do when you come in. We're going to a
Right, in your
4
package
welcoming
you have-
signs. Yeah,
in your
I'm
package
just,
you have
for the people at home, I'm setting it up.
Okay. So this is one which is, again, very simple, very clean. This is a second version of that, which
I like that
just sets up a little bit differently. And then we asked the sign people to be a little bit more creative, and they came up with this. Now that logo would actually be blue. The only reason it's white is because it was a cut and paste job. But you would see the logo on, in effect, it would simulated a sky.
All right.
And then a second version of that is this. And this one, you'll notice we have Oakland Beach on there as well.
We're scolding.
So those are more or less...
Can I see B again?
B. Which was that, the second one?
Yeah, B.
I think this is it. No, that's A, I'm sorry.
Have a great visit.
I like that.
You guys have been busy.
Yeah, well, they have.
So we have something
All
like
right,
this.
okay, let's take a
comment about that?
What?
Can I just make a comment? Because I was in...
You're the sign guy, go ahead, Bill. Sorry, I can't...
Just want to say that this sign and the other one that did not say "Have a great visit," this was done by me, and I'm not any kind of a graphics person. But the point that the committee made was that actually this is the reverse. What it would be a green sign with white lettering, very bright white lettering. They thought that the green is a sort of a typical sign for parks and places like that, and I guess many other parks. In fact, they went to the Greenwich Beach in different places. So just because I didn't, with my limited software skills, couldn't figure out how to make a green sign with white letters, so we did it the opposite. And the 2 choices were either to have it, and the reason we said "Have a great visit" was historically in the old signs, which said mostly what you couldn't do, way down at the bottom it said "Have a pleasant visit." So we thought, well, let's make this bigger and really, instead of saying pleasant, let's say great. But I have no problem as far as getting rid of that and just saying "Welcome to Rytown Park."
Oh, no, I like Have a Great
But
Visit.
you could even do this with, you could add Oakland Beach to it if you wanted to.
So I don't feel like... Bill, I think we saw the 4 signs.
All right, well, let me just say, I have a comment about...
I think there's
Wait.
Bill, we're done.
1 second, let me just say something about the 4th sign. Can I please say it?
No, we made our decision. Don't give me cognitive dissonance.
30 seconds. Just show them the fourth sign.
Too much. It's too much stuff.
It's too much stuff.
All right, this one, you'll notice there's two different kinds of lettering. There's the black lettering on the blue, and then there's the white lettering on the green. I would recommend, if we go with that one, which I think is a very nice idea, you would use a little bit deeper blue and have all white lettering. Because the key thing that we remember in signage 101 is keep it simple.
Yes, that's why I like the first one you showed
All
us.
right, if you like that, that's fine.
Anybody, I mean, is that consensus?
Yeah, I like the,
I would
like
be
symbol.
fine with any of the four. I think it's a huge improvement. I
Right.
thank you all for having formed the sign committee. I thank you, Bill.
Bill Lawyer
here.
and the
You
Friends.
know, the Friends, thank you.
I want to thank let's give them a
Really
round of
doing
applause
a
for
great
the-
job on that.
Thank you.
That's what we needed.
And this is several meetings too,
Yeah.
Blake. I don't mean to cut you off, but don't make, let's wait, get a decision. But I love the sign. I love the idea of have a great visit, read it in the packet. That's exactly the message we want to convey. I want it as big as possible. Welcome to Rye Pond Park, have a great visit. Boom! It's beautiful. I really thank you for all the work. I think it looked nicer in the green and white that you're suggesting also, so that's terrific.
There were a couple of ways though.
So I'll take that as can I get a motion to approve the...
So moved.
And second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
So that's the sign B. No, not you. Whoa.
I'm trying to get...
Benny, are you on board for that?
Yes.
Great.
So we're talking this sign here?
Yes, yep.
Okay, we will then have the sign guys do an actual mock-up, if you will.
Yep.
We'll email it to everyone.
Great.
Just to make sure.
Perfect.
The image will be a little bit larger and the
Great.
font size and
So
so
we're good.
Okay.
Okay.
Terrific, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your hard work, guys.
Great job.
Okay, Susan's not here today. Was she supposed to be here? Susan Oslander?
No, well, Susan, I mean, the only reason this is left over is there was really no formal decision in terms of...
That's a Rye City decision, isn't it?
Well, it's the commission's
This is Susan Oslander came to present for a grant to Rye City.
Oh, yes.
Remember?
Yeah.
And then
I didn't.
the question
didn't
was,
recall
the
her name.
correspondent, yep,
Yeah.
sure. So unless she's not here,
And I think Mayor French did send an email out, I don't know.
what did he say in that?
So more or less that the Rye City is not in a position to support the
So
grant
it's-
application.
Do you remember this
So it's less than more.
conversation?
Excuse me?
Less than more.
Well, yeah.
Ultimately, the question was, would we go, she was prepared to go on a success fee basis. The problem is, if she's successful, and Rye City doesn't move forward, we'd be on the hook for her fees, which would be substantial. So since Rye City's not prepared to go forward, I was prepared to let her, rather than force Rye City to have the same level of financial resources as poor Rye Town, rather than drag our poor Rye City cousins along with us, I'm prepared to let it.
Joe, I think, with the capital committee, want to consider that opportunity for grants moving forward, because it is part of a capital
I
discussion.
think that's the right place for it. Do you want to, and so Christina, we want to come up, perfect, that's a wonderful segue. Commissioner Nieto.
At our first, we've had
Turn those
two...
lights back on, Fred.
That's on.
Oh,
Wait a
okay.
second.
There's a second switch in from the right.
Good?
Yeah.
The Capital Committee has had two official meetings and one informal meeting, and at the first meeting, we did talk about the grant proposal, and people felt that it was premature since there's no holistic plan for the park. It
Perfect.
doesn't make sense. Maybe one day it would make sense, but not at this juncture. That was what our feeling
Great.
was on the grant. So I'm very happy with the progress we're making. We had a terrific site visit, and Bishop and Fred and Frank and Terry were all there about a month ago, walked us through the facility, did a really great job. So now we're starting the process of drafting an RFP and trying to balance, a positive vision. What values would we like to uphold in this? Something that has to support public access, something that has an educational component, with having a sort of list of do's and don'ts, right? Cannot have a larger footprint in terms of traffic, in terms of noise, has to respect the neighborhood, all the things that the commission has talked about in the past. So we are, anyway, we're meeting in 2 weeks, and we're going to start drafting a document. And if any of the commissioners has any comments along the way, they can, obviously contact me. I'm glad Dennis is here, because I would love to have
Someone from
Portchester.
Portchester, right?
Yeah, I really
I'm doing
feel
this
that,
appointments,
okay, no, that's
actually.
great, because
I
we have a
apologize.
really strong committee, and I feel that we need to have all of the municipalities represented, and,
And actually, I'll work with them and you to bring them up to sleep. I apologize. My wife's mom has been sick, actually, and at the most inopportune time relative to these meetings, so
Yeah.
I've had to jump into action, and which is why I've missed meetings here. But I'm about to do a slew of appointments with my board, and the capital committee will be one of them, so I'll be in
That's
touch with...
terrific.
Great. Well, I think, it's a one or two, I can't remember, whatever, it's automatic, I think, from our standpoint, right? Once you have somebody designated.
I'll
straight
just put
to
them in
meetings.
touch and get them on,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the biggest question that our group, after the site visit, really felt that the main administration building was too small to create an economic return relative to the capital investment that would be needed. So an addition to the property, right, in addition to the building, would probably have to happen in order to make it economically interesting for an investor. And then it begs the question of how far can you expand, right, behind the building? What's the footprint? The commission accepted federal grant, or was it a state grant, for the roof? And so there are landmark restrictions, and I know Commissioner Salanitro was looking into this, and Mayor Feinstein. But before we can really go out to people and solicit interest, we need to know what's feasible in terms of how far can we expand. And Lisa Easton had sent an email around yesterday saying, well, at one point, the entire parking lot was filled with small wooden, one-story structures that were changing rooms, I guess,
Yep.
for the... Right. So we would not really want to take up the entire parking lot, obviously. So the question is, where is there historical precedence for there to be a structure?
Well, my understanding from sorry for interrupting, was from Lisa Easton is just that the potential legally viable, consistent with the historic landmark footprint is huge.
Right.
You're probably not going to want to use it, but I think it really is the whole of the, the sort of the prime,
Well, beyond that.
Yeah.
Beyond that, though.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, and do you have her report? You have a copy of
Yeah,
her?
Bishop
right.
made copies of it for all of us, which is a fantastic
Yeah,
report. And the
right.
committee also wants to consider all of the capital needs
Right.
as we were
Right.
empowered to do, but
Yeah.
the seawall and all the
Yeah.
buildings, and throw it all in there. And when we
Right.
go out to people, ask for all sorts of bids.
Right.
You can just look at, do you want to run the parking? Do you want to run the beach?
Right.
Do you want to run more than one thing?
Right.
And have it be exploratory,
Right.
in nature, but
Yeah.
constrained.
Yeah, great. Well, that's wonderful.
So-
That's and what's the date you're meeting?
We're meeting June 4th.
Okay.
Or whatever a Monday is. Maybe that's not the 4th,
And
but
what time is that?
7:30.
PM? Not AM.
But commissioners are always welcome to attend
Wonderful.
a meeting, obviously.
Great. Well, listen, thanks for all your hard work. I'm really
Sure.
excited about this. I really feel like we've got some traction after talking about it for a long time. Thanks for taking the green to chair this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, correspondence request. Chris, if you want to take us through these very quickly.
Yeah, if you can. We've received a number of requests more along the lines of the free passes that we just looked at for the Friends. If you look at the first one, you have a woman that is asking for some kind of consideration because she's on dialysis and she's not 62, but you're talking about the difference of $110 as a single permit that she would qualify for, and she would pay the $3 for parking as opposed to a $20 senior permit and get free parking with the process. We get requests like this fairly regularly, and our initial response, the staff's initial response, is no. But again, we wanted to kind of bring it to the commissioners to get a little bit more guidance. The second sheet there is the volunteer discussion that
We've done that one. Yeah.
right, you just approved. Okay, the third one is a slightly different version. Now you have a non-resident saying, hey, your $210 fee is too high, and consider reducing it.
Oh, all right. Well,
Okay.
we're not going to consider that one. So
Well-
the only question is the dialysis is, I don't know what people in other municipalities.
Here's my problem. I am so sympathetic. But once you make an exception, you have, what about a person in their 40s, person, and I'm so sympathetic that it breaks my heart. But on the other hand, we're here setting policy, and I don't know how you make the exceptions, because there can be other exceptions as well.
Right.
And I am human,
Yep.
and I read the letter, and I said, I would love to, but once you do it, you have to do it, and is that the right thing to do
Right.
from a policy point of view?
Any other comments? Are there other comments from the commission?
Unless you were to broadly, and I don't even know if legally you could discern it like this, but,
Right.
you know, a handicap, have a seniors and handicap bundle in two groups, but how do you prove, you know, that status? That's a logistical question, really.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's the problem.
So is that the consensus, Commissioner San Leitro?
Unfortunately, I have to agree with you, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and Commissioner Parker?
I think I'm going to abstain.
Yeah, sure, I understand. Okay, well, great. So is anything, no other issues we need to take up, are there, Bishop?
Okay, no,
Please.
the only last item that I just want to bring to your attention is the last page. This is just our first draft of trying to define a non-profit policy.
Okay, yeah, we'll look at it, we're not going to discuss this.
We'd appreciate some suggestions on improvements to work.
So just make sure, take a look at it, yep.
Okay.
Sorry, Christina?
Can I ask for an update on the car counters, since that money was...
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, you can. But yeah, 30-second
30 seconds.
30-second update.
All right, the car counters were installed yesterday. The blacktop is going to be put down today. It was tested yesterday without the blacktop, and the car counters do count cars coming in. They also count cars going out. And we're confident that this will be integrated with the cashier system and produce, you know, the corresponding reports. All right, in addition, just to update the commissioners, we're also finishing up the beach roadway.
Look, if we got this car counter in now, let's make sure we do it properly, right? We got to make sure that we know.
Certainly, we're going to work with the Rye City Finance Committee. Paula Schaefer is on top of this, and we will draft an appropriate report that ties into our daily financials.
And let's just say, Fred, I appreciate the good weather you've delivered so far this summer. Appreciate it if you continue to do that, and let's wish everybody a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. And
I just have two things. The not-for-profit policy, was it in the package?
Excuse me?
That you said the...
Yeah, it's in the packet that was on your desk there. It's the very last page. And it's not a policy, it's just
there
a
it is.
draft definition.
Okay, it's the new, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And the last thing is the rules and regulations.
For-
I had some
Yes.
language changes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I just...
Would you give those to the...
Yeah,
to
I
the-
didn't know.
Yeah, we'll have a great surprise for you next month, we hope, and that is we're going to be able to show you the management manual, if you will, the park operations manual, which the staff has been working on. It's really taking shape well.
Right.
I think you guys will be pleased.
Wonderful. Please,
I have one,
yep, sure, please.
Somebody had sent me an email, and I went up to the park yesterday because they were concerned that, or I don't know if it's a concern, but there was a question. You guys have just painted the back of where the bathrooms are in the park that face the parking lot. And, yeah, the wall. So it's white as opposed to the
Well, that's just
primer?
primer.
Oh. I figured as much, but I
There you
said
go.
I would ask the
Wonderful.
question.
Beautiful. Can I get a motion to bring this...
Mr. Chair,
yes, please.
Okay, great.
Before, I'll be happy to give you that motion, but real quick before, one quick question. Does the park rangers have a policy about calling the police if they spot an unleashed dog?
Well, they won't. Phil can elaborate on that.
I don't mean to take, if you don't, you should,
Yeah.
right? And then we should just see what happens in the course of the month.
We do.
We first try to take care of the incident ourselves in-house, so we don't have to call the IPD. The only time we would do it is if somebody was injured. Otherwise we try to, on the third time we tell somebody, we ask them to leave the park.
It's not working, right?
It's not working.
You may want to call the police, see, and you may get voluntary compliance when they see red lights on.
Well, what I'd
right?
suggest is we meet with both you and Mr. Jaffrey, and also and give suggestions about how we enforce it.
Our policy,
And I think that's right. I think
enforce
that's absolutely right, Mayor Pilla. We need to come up with a policy so it's automatic and so we can track things. Wonderful suggestion. Great end to the meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, Catherine.
was fun.
Yeah, well,